statement and her emphasis on the need for sensitivity and indeed good temper in dealing with this topic. And in that spirit, could I ask her to salute the courage of J.K. Rowling, Sharron Davies and indeed the Honourable Member for Canterbury?
Madam Deputy Speaker, over many decades, fantastic women have campaigned for the protection and creation of single-sex spaces, have fought against violence against women and girls, have led some brilliant campaigns, and I pay tribute to all of those women, many of them unsung heroes whose names we'll never hear anywhere and whose names will never be mentioned in this chamber, for their fantastic campaigning efforts. It is only because of the amazing work of feminists from the 1970s onwards, Madam Deputy Speaker, that we have rape crisis centres and women's refuges.
Tracy Gilbert.
Madam Deputy Speaker, and can I welcome the statement made by the Secretary of State. And I want to put on record my thanks to For Women Scotland for their tireless work over a number of years, where they were the public face of many women who have experienced discrimination, abuse and personal loss for making the argument that the Supreme Court made last Wednesday. Madam Deputy Speaker, the Supreme Court held up the rights of lesbians to be able to associate with same-sex attracted women. What steps is my right honourable friend taking to ensure that lesbians and gay men are able to associate without face of challenge?
Madam Deputy Speaker, the Supreme Court ruling makes that clear and provides the clarity that many have been asking for, including lesbians and gay men, and the EHRC Statutory Code of Practice will provide further clarity. But I agree with my honourable friend, no one should have faced abuse or intimidation or harassment for expressing their legitimately held opinions.
Sammy Wilson.
While the Scottish National Party may see this as a judgment made by judicial bigots, most people will see this as a decision of common sense and will indeed wonder why the courts had to decide what was a man and what was a woman. But given the intolerant, threatening and violent response from the trans lobby, can the Minister assure us that this judgment will not be undermined by the guidance which she issues to this House, and that vulnerable people, sports teams, hospital patients, teachers, children will be protected by this and not be adversely affected as they have been in the past? And can she also give us assurance that she will ensure that it is raised at the highest level of government that Northern Ireland must be included in these protections?
Secretary of State.
The Supreme Court judgment was clear and is welcome and necessary, but what it also set out was that the basis for that protection for single-sex spaces is rooted in the Equality Act. So those provisions were always there, but now we have the clarity that many have been calling for. Whilst I note his understandable concern about the behaviour of a minority that crosses a line into conduct that is potentially criminal and certainly unacceptable, I think we do need to tread with just a bit of care, Madam Deputy Speaker, that we don't lump everyone into that category. I'm sure that wasn't the Honourable Gentleman's intention, setting out that whilst there can be no place for intimidation or threats of violence, people do have the right to express their opinions in line with our long-standing rights in terms of freedom of speech.
Richard Bergen.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Equality Act is a vital piece of legislation that's there to protect the essential rights of oppressed groups, including women and of trans people, in a world still far too dominated by sexism and bigotry, including transphobia. I used the Equality Act plenty of times to represent people as a lawyer before I came into this place. The House will no doubt discuss the impact of the recent court judgment again, but when we look online and in some of the media, can we try to ensure that debate respects all groups, including trans people, because some of the stuff spilling out of the right-wing press and online in recent days is truly, truly awful. And it's been raised with me by trans constituents who are just trying to get on with their lives.
Secretary of State.
Madam Deputy Speaker, the Equality Act was one of the last Labour government's proudest achievements in ensuring that people are able to live their lives free from discrimination and prejudice and harassment. So I agree with him that in recognising that important and landmark piece of legislation, we ensure that when we discuss what are can be difficult and sensitive issues for some, we seek to do so in understanding that, as he says, people just simply want to get on and live their lives free from discrimination, harassment and abuse.
Cocking.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In 2022, sitting at Wormley Community Centre doing telling at the local elections, a woman came out after she had just voted and said, "I've just voted Conservative because you're the only party that knows what a woman is." So the British people really do care about this. So can the Minister be more specific on a time when she will issue guidance to schools about gender questioning children?
State.
Madam Deputy Speaker, as I've already said on a number of occasions in this House, we will be issuing that guidance this year.
Tristan Osborne.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. And can I welcome the clarification and statement by my right honourable friend? I think the way she's reasonably dealt with questions in the House today is testament to her fortitude and her ability. Can I ask a number of different groups in my constituency who made representation, Hilary Cook from Medway Pride and women's advocacy groups, there is a worry around some of the elements around harassment and discrimination that some might take an opportunity to target the trans community. Can she guarantee this afternoon that the Labour Equality Act stands and prevents abuse, harassment against and discrimination?
Madam Deputy Speaker, the Equality Act does stand and it provides clear protections within law for women and for trans people too. It is important that women have access to single-sex spaces such as women's refuges and rape crisis centres, but it is also important, of course, that trans people have access to high-quality healthcare and appropriate support services too, and in addition to that, the ability to see the police take action against hate crime.
Lee Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. A man is a man and a woman is a woman. And anybody watching this at home today will think that the lunatics have taken over the asylum, which they quite clearly have. Now, I don't need a Supreme Court judgment or ruling to tell me that a bloke shouldn't be in a women's changing rooms. Well, I want to ask the Secretary of State a very simple question for more clarity. Can a woman have a penis?
I tell you what, blokes shouldn't beat up women. Maybe he should have a word with his colleague.
James Asser.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Secretary of State will not be surprised to hear that I've had a lot of correspondence on this, and there is great concern amongst the trans community what the impact is, but also the wider LGBT community, that in this populist age it may signal a move away from the progress on LGBT rights. I welcome, therefore, her statement that there is going to be guidance. Can she make sure that is very clear and widely distributed so it is understood? But can she also assure the LGBT community and this House that this government and this party, as it long has, stands foursquare behind the advancement of LGBT rights, and we will defend any attempt to row back the progress of the last 30 years or the gains of the last Labour government?
Secretary of State.
Madam Deputy Speaker, my humble friend is right to draw attention to the advances made over many decades to ensure that LGBT people are treated with dignity and have the support and ability to participate in public life that, frankly, for many people from many, many years ago was just simply not the case. We have made enormous progress in tackling prejudice and discrimination, and this Labour government will always ensure that whatever someone's background, they have every opportunity to take part in public life, to achieve all that they are capable of. And the Equality Act, one of the proudest achievements of that last Labour government, enshrines in law the right to freedom from discrimination and harassment for women, and yes, also for trans people too.
Jim Shannon.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I thank the Secretary of State very much for her answers and her statement. This ends years of confusion around sex-based protections. Being a woman is a matter of biology, not identity, and certainly not paperwork. This judgment is welcomed by women and children, and I believe many others. And does the Secretary of State not agree that this is not an eradication of rights for any person in this United Kingdom, but is an underlining of protection? And what discussions will take place with Cabinet colleagues to see an end, for example, posters for birthing people terminology and other such phrases being used in the NHS, and instead return to the court-declared definition of women through health trusts in this UK? Today is a good day for women, a great day for the law, and a wonderful day for the people and for truth.
I agree that the ruling of the Supreme Court was clear. That is important. It provides welcome clarity in a range of areas. And where it comes to the issues that he identifies, for example, around access to healthcare treatment, It is for a very good reason that we make sure that there are sex-based services available for women, for example, those who are breastfeeding, those who are going through pregnancy, and much more besides. But we also, alongside that, need to make sure that healthcare